Hello, do you like New Japan Pro Wrestling? Are you a Shin Nihon freak? If so, check out the Super J-Cast with Joel and Damon on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network.
And even if you fucking hate New Japan Pro Wrestling, listen to the Super J-Cast anyway. Not just for our great show reviews, analysis, and pastrami sandwiches, but there's also usually some dick jokes somewhere in the obligatory opening 30 minutes of absolute nonsense we chat about every single week. That's the Super J-Cast for all the best talk about New Japan Pro Wrestling, crisps, and pornography.
Hello, everyone. My name is Taylor.
And I'm Kelly.
And we are the co-hosts of Jumping Bomb Audio, the podcast all about Joshi Pro Wrestling here on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network. Every other Monday, we are with you talking about the biggest news in Joshi, along with show reviews, previews, and much, much more.
So if you're new to Joshi or you've been a longtime fan, this is the show for you. We've got something for everyone here. So check us out, Jumping Bomb Audio.
This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
Double or Nothing has passed, and welcome to a review episode of The Good, The Bad, and The Hungee here on the Voice of Wrestling Podcasting Network. I am your host, Tyler Fornes. With me, as always, is my co-host, Fred. I hated this show, Moreland.
Yeah, I wouldn't go necessarily that far, but you said the show had passed, and some other things that passed are bowel movements and kidney stones. Just a couple things that popped to mind there for no particular reason. Yeah, this what a treat to come back from vacation for was this pile of something or other. I mean, we'll get into it in depth here in a bit, but like the vibes on this show were awful for like 4/5 of it. And when you got a 5-hour show, 4.5, whatever it was, and like the vast majority of it is outright boring, that's a bad time. That's not what you wanted to have happen.
I was already annoyed at the beginning of the show because my gimmick didn't work. So I had to, maybe I shouldn't say that I had to buy it, but I had to buy it. And I was just super annoyed. I'm like, okay, this show's now going to stink because I had to fork over the cash. And guess what? I hated it until the last 3 matches. We're going to go match by match. But overarching thoughts, Fred, let's talk about the build here for a second, because this build was, and we talked about it at length over the past few weeks, very weird, very odd, and it felt like Tony Khan wasn't putting his best foot forward. And I don't necessarily know if he wasn't putting his best foot forward, but he's got bigger stuff planned down the line. I want to float this idea by you because I've been stewing on it for a little bit. Did he add an excess amount of gimmick matches because he knew this card, as far as like what the matches were, was not very strong? Like, did you need to have Mark Briscoe as a special guest referee? Did you need to make it an unsanctioned match? Like, did you need to have a battle royal? It felt like he was trying to compensate for the fact that he knew that this was probably going to be the weakest of their 4 shows in 2023.
Oh yeah, you could definitely make that argument. I can't really push back on it too much. It kind of, this was a weird build. We like you said, we've talked about a whole lot. Just a very odd way to get to the main event, in particular, but also like we can point to stuff like Swerve Strickland and Keith Lee's weird treatment that basically their feud died and then it kind of got revived in this battle royal. That's one thing that stuck out to me. You had, they could bring back Adam Cole, and they obviously want him to be in a big spot, potentially to be facing MJF for the title later this summer. I get the theory on why that should have been an unsanctioned or no DQ match or whatever. Although, like, the whole AEW is not legally responsible for this Extreme Rules ass match. It was extremely, pardon the pun, goofy. And like the ladder match seemed very odd. That Stip did. And of course, you have the constant House of Black rules where disqualifications, which will always crack me up. And I mean, some of it made sense, but like they probably could have done without one or two more, and they could have done with a lot less interference on the show because that was a constant thing. And like some of these matches, you needed it, like the Triple J versus the FTR match. That you have to have the Memphis stuff in that, if especially with a match that involves Jeff Jarrett in a prominent in-ring role. It makes sense. I don't have an issue with that. I have an issue with everything leading up to the trip to the circus, but like you need that for that match to work. Christian Cage and Wardlow, that could have been just a regular match. Adam Cole and Chris Jericho was just, boy. As you know, Rich brought up his theory that if you had them do this, they had them wrestle 1,000 times, they'd have a better match 999 times. And like, I declared it like the 0th percentile outcome for that match. Like that is just the absolute worst thing you can have happen in terms of what that match should have been. And to take what should have been, frankly, a pretty good match at a baseline and turn it into what I thought was not only the very easily the worst match on the card, although I actually had the trios match close to it. You also had to have like all this gimmickry with it that just did not help. It did not elevate it. The whole purpose of this stuff is to elevate your match, and they failed at that. But we'll get to that in a second. I got to say something about this damn pre-show. I don't know who talked Tony Khan into doing pre-shows as like the dollar store version of the WWE's style. Because you can't even buy a table for these people to sit at. They just got to stand in a cleared off area in the crowd and say nothing for 40 minutes, and then you get a crappy 6-man tag on the pre-show. It sucked. This didn't do anything. I cannot fathom that like anyone that was on the fence about buying the show watched that pre-show and was like clapping their hands together, like reaching in for the wallet, any of that stuff. I can't imagine it. It doesn't make any sense to me that somebody would watch 30 minutes of Tall Paul and Stokely just say absolutely nothing of interest, even though they probably could in a different circumstance, and a random Arn Anderson promo that did nothing, and a not very good 6-man tag, and be like, this is how I'm plopping down my $50.
So I've been thinking about this a lot, Fred, and I want to propose this theory to you. I think you and I both agree that when you look back, and especially at Forbidden Door 2022, that was one of the best pre-shows we've ever seen.
Yeah.
I want to float this idea because I wonder if it's not drawing the buys. And here's kind of my thought process. Obviously, you can make the argument, we get these great matches on the pre-show, the card's going to be even better, and you're going to get FOMO. But you also could look at it the other way, be like, I just got 4 great matches for free. I don't need to buy the pay-per-view. And I'm wondering if the WWE style, they have some data that says that this boring-ass 40-minute panel with a bad pre-show match ends up getting more late buys than the style of just having a bunch of good matches. And I don't necessarily say I agree as the Hungry Cat
running.
Just a running of epic proportions. But I'm curious what their data says, and I would love to be able to ask about it. I would love for somebody in the room to ask about it, but the room stinks now.
Yeah.
And it's almost like we got to make a trip and we got to go sit in the room after the show and yell at them for, being bad.
Well, we've already had discussions about how some of them think that it's actually bad to to possibly upset anyone in wrestling. But that's a different matter. Yeah, man, if this increases buys, great, but like maybe we could figure out a different way where it's actually entertaining, and even that increases buys even more. Because man, if you're telling me that this pre-show is what leads to this is the maximal way to increase your late pay-per-view buys, if this is doing it, if there's nothing else, then capitalism has failed.
Yeah, 100%. It's
we got to get Vladimir Lenin in here for the wrestling now.
Yeah,
Karl Marx coming out of his grave with the Hulkamania t-shirt. This is just it sucked. It was awful. I hated it. I apologized to my wife once the pre-show was over. I was like, I am sorry. And she was like, you didn't book it. I'm like, I know. I'm still sorry. This was not good.
I will say that this pre-show, when your best workers are Austin and Colton Gunn, there's a problem. And
Hook, I guess.
Hook was fine. But
yeah.
They bumped like crazy. They worked incredibly hard. They're the perfect slimy lower to mid card heel tag team.
Yeah.
Because they give a shit. They try. They put in the effort. It shows every single time they're out. Does it always land? No, but they care and they try. And that's at least something. Jeff Hardy, God bless him. I hope he stays clean. I hope he figures it out. He should never wrestle again. This dude has nothing left. And it's going to become a thing where he's just going to become such a shell of himself that people are going to start to forget how good he used to be. And they're just going to remember how bad he was. Sometimes,
well, we're kind of there with Matt Hardy already, too. So,
hey, I will never forget Mattitude 2.0 from SmackDown 2004, baby. Let's go. But yeah, they're just not there anymore. It's not a thing. And
do you even think they can have a successful nostalgia program with the Young Bucks at this point?
They could have 2 years ago.
Like, but 2023, 2024, I don't know, man. I don't think they can. And maybe they just need to, maybe Jeff just needs to shake off a little ring rust and Matt needs to do some DDP yoga or some shit. But like this was.
Well, because remember, we already saw the Hardys versus the Bucks once, and that match was not very good. The Bucks had to like carry them through it.
Yeah.
I have no interest in watching the Hardy Boys ever again.
And this is when you can't have a good match with the Young Bucks, then like that's it, man. Would you rather see present day Rock and Roll Express than the Hardy Boys?
Yes,
I'm thinking the answer is yes for me.
Yes, it's 100% yes.
I mean, I can't imagine. This sucks, man, and I hate saying it because the Hardy Boys are an all-time great tag team. I think they're like a weak yes for me for the Observer Hall of Fame at this moment. I see the argument, and I'm like, yeah, that probably works for me. But like, damn, this was rough. Ethan Page, my wife declared him the anti-Ricky Starks. Like matter and antimatter, just like the complete opposite in terms of charisma. Page just looks like he should be a charismatic guy, and then he absolutely is not. And it stinks because I think he's got some stuff that I like about him, but I just don't think he's like he should be put anywhere other than like low mid card in this company. And I'm not saying that maliciously because I think he has some cool moves. I think he has a decent sense of humor sometimes, but like and the fact that this feud is continuing is dreadful. It's truly dreadful. And if this continues on Dynamite, it's just going to be worse. Like Rampage may not be a strong enough containment zone.
Yeah. Let's get to the show.
Yeah.
And I will give AEW credit. I thought the fact that they did the entrances to end the pre-show was a good idea. And the last people to get entrances were the biggest names. And the really last guys were title holders. Brian Cage, the Lucha Brothers. I mean, Swerve was in there, but it's the Embassy, and Brian Cage was in there, so like that makes sense.
Yeah.
And Orange Cassidy comes out, and he ends up winning, beating Swerve in the final 2. And I gotta say, my big takeaway from this was they should have strapped up Big Bill. He was
Big
great.
Bill Owens. If you had told me in 7 years ago, I think it was, when he reached the main roster, that Cass was going to be one of the highlights of American wrestling in 2023, I would have thought you were lying to me, or that we had entered the bad timeline. And maybe we are in the bad timeline, but I don't think it's because of Big Bill. Big Bill rules. This was great. All right, I'm going to rant about something else here. We gotta put Jim Ross off TV, like, permanently. It's not good anymore. I know, but like, I think last night was even a new low for him. We got him outright doing a racism during this match when they're doing the spot where it was Bandito stalling vertical suplex, and the other luchadors were fighting off heels to let him do it. That he goes, these luchadors, they're all related, aren't they? It's like, no, man, this ain't good. This is the exact opposite of good. It is bad. I still can't believe that there wasn't like a Nick Castellanos moment with him apologizing and being yanked off the air mid-show after that. Like, and even ignoring that, JR was awful. Was it the Battle Royal, or was it a match after that where there was a bump into the announcing table and he just lost his mind? I can't recall now, but I mean, he just kept like complaining about that, and I don't know why they put the announce table at ringside for just the second time in company history, and then like put
what
Fragile.
Was the first time?
I think Excalibur mentioned this on the show. It was like Fight for the Fallen 2020, I think it was.
Wait, the first Fight for the Fallen, 2019?
I think so. Maybe 2019.
Okay.
But it was very early in the company's history. But yeah, I mean, like, JR just like blowing gimmicks for matches, like not understanding, with Sabu standing directly in front of a ref-shirted Aubrey Edwards, that he was like, is Sabu the ref for this match? Like, we were hitting Art Donovan levels with him at points. Just like, completely out of touch, unaware of what's going on, and it needs to stop. It's not good. Have them do those pre-taped sit-down interviews. Have them do press, whatever you need to do. But like, we gotta stop. It ain't good. It's the exact opposite of good.
Yeah, it's he needs to be put out to pasture. Like, he's
like the voice of our childhoods. Me and you, we're about the same age. We grew up watching the Monday Night Wars. Yeah, I know what Jim Ross is. I'm fully aware of how great Jim Ross is. I still think he's like, if not the greatest, like one of the 3 greatest announcers of all time. But like,
he doesn't have it anymore.
This is not it anymore. He can't. He's not good. At his best days, like his best announcing jobs are when he doesn't say anything bad. I was freaked out for the show because about an hour in, Andrew Rich said that Tony Schiavone wasn't there because he was at a kid's graduation, and I was like, "Oh, we're going to get a whole night of Jim Ross. This is going to suck so much." Tony Schiavone is so much better than Jim Ross at this point in time, and I know that Tony Schiavone's like whole shtick at this point is just like happy-go-lucky uncle, but my God. I will take that every day of the week and twice on Sunday on what Jim Ross is these days, which is just someone who doesn't know the product and screws up all the time and says like stuff that like got me tugging at my collar. It's not good.
No, it's very bad. And yeah, But yeah, let's get back to fun. Big Bill owns. I thought
this was a good battle royal. I thought
it was very cohesive, like every AEW battle royal.
There were a couple. There were one or two recently that were not that cohesive, unfortunately. But this was a really nice return to form. I'm not going to tell you that this was like this should not have been a highlight of the pay-per-view. Like, it should have been a nice little fun opener leading into a good show. It was not. It was probably the fourth best match on the card, maybe fifth, and which says a lot about the other stuff. But I enjoyed this. This was fun. They always do a nice job of tying all these stories together, and they're very enjoyable.
Yeah, I'll say this: as far as battle royals go, this is a 4-star match. Like, and I'm looking at it from specifically a battle royal lens because it's so hard to rank it against other matches because it's so unique and different. But I did love the finish here because like it was just Orange Cassidy being brilliant. Yeah. And like he and Swerve were throwing exchanges and moves on the apron. And then instead of kicking Swerve, he just kicks his hand and Swerve falls down because he's like, oh shit. And I thought that was it fit Orange to a T. But who's going to take this title off of him?
It's a good question.
Like this time is up. And I wonder if they're waiting for Forbidden Door and this is just a placeholder. Hell, this whole show felt like a placeholder show. And we've kind of already talked about that in a vacuum. It feels like that Orange may be dropping this title at Forbidden Door.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. Maybe it'll be Shibata. Maybe, there was talk that last year was Ishii's last year in the G1, which I can't fathom from New Japan standpoint. I know that they're like really working hard on cycling in some new talent and really giving them big pushes, but like it's Tomohiro Ishii and he's still great. I can't imagine being like, you're going to have to take a month off, buddy. We can't have you working 6 great matches or 8 great matches. But if that's the case, and they can get Ishii for like a nice 2-3 month run, and you got to do that. That's a no-brainer. But, it is very interesting because I think this Cassidy title run has been great. He's been consistently putting on great matches on like a multiple times a week basis. You could make the argument, I wouldn't necessarily agree, but you could make the argument that he is the MVP of AEW this year to date.
And what's ridiculous is some jackoff in the presser asked him if he thought he was one of the best wrestlers in the world, and he's like, no.
Yeah.
Like, what? You don't ask Orange Cassidy a question like that, you idiots.
I have not watched the presser because I was coming back from traveling, so I just wanted to sleep. But what I've heard is not great. So
no. But let's get to the rest of the card. We obviously had the Battle Royal, which was very good. And let's go to arguably the worst match of the year. Adam Cole defeats Chris Jericho in an unsanctioned match with Sabu as the special guest enforcer. Not only did we barely get any Sabu, he came out wearing a suit. And we found out that the lanyard was for his former manager who passed away.
Yeah, Melissa Coates, I believe it was.
Yeah. So that's forgiven, but this.
You can't make fun of that. Like it does look odd when it's Sabu, but like knowing that, you obviously can't joke about it because it's actually very nice and touching.
Why is Sabu wearing a suit? I understand if he doesn't want to wear the genie pants and have his shirt off because the man's almost 60.
Yeah.
If he's not in great shape, that's fine.
I will say Sabu was looking nice.
Shirt?
It was a nice suit.
Why is he wearing a suit? Why?
I don't know, but it looked nice. I'm going to give him credit for having a nice suit at least if he's going to wear a suit. But yes, it does not.
Okay, that's
he
fine.
did not exactly look genocidal, homicidal in his loafers.
Wear a t-shirt and jeans or something. You're an enforcer. You look like somebody who's about to judge a boxing match. Like to me, like we're nerds. We love Sabu. But if you don't know who Sabu is, why the hell are you supposed to take him seriously?
I'm glad that he didn't die doing his splash off the top rope because I thought that the gravity was just going to defeat him and drag him straight down. but he was able to get enough horizontal distance on his splash. This match was atrocious. It was really bad, really boring. And I'm wondering if like AEW, whoever their road agents, producers, whatever term you like to use, whoever it is that laid out the different matches for this night, if they talk to each other at all, because you could tell me that they never even met on this night. They didn't even say, "Hey, how's the family?" I would believe it, because God bless this whole show, but this was the epitome of it, is just long periods of boring stuff where nothing's happening, and what does happen doesn't look particularly good at some points. Like Adam Cole's look, I listened to the flagship yesterday, and I was thinking about this already, but the punches that Adam Cole was threw to end the match and the ground and pounds thing looked awful weak, and I think if it's the finish of the match, it's got to look good. And the weird thing is that there was a period where he was like, he had the chain wrapped around his hand, and was throwing punches with that. And it was like, okay, well, this looks better. And then he stopped. It just went back to punches, and it was a weak finish. The feud must continue with one of these intergender matches between Jericho and Saraya against Cole and Baker. And I will give 100% credit to Britt Baker for giving some life to this match when she came out and just murdered Chris Jericho with some kendo stick shots. I don't need a kendo stick in a match, but at least she came out on fire and just laid into him. I will give her credit for that, because those were some nasty looking welts on him by the time she was done.
Okay, I'm going to say this about the finish. I think Cole was supposed to have the chain the whole time. But in the sequence right before the finish, it got wrapped around his leg, and you could see Adam Cole trying to unravel it, and then he just kind of gave up because he's like, okay, this is taking too long. Well, then it messed with the finish because the chain was too tight as he was trying to throw those punches, so he switched hands. And nothing went right in this match. I'm going to be honest. Dud. I'm not even giving this a star rating.
I gave it 1 star.
I think that's generous. This was, I don't know what the issue is, but I'll say this. I don't want to see these guys wrestle maybe ever again, because to me it felt like they have no chemistry. None.
They've got a bit, I believe in Jericho and Cole, and
separately,
I believe,
sure.
Yeah, and I believe that they will try to make up for this on Wednesday. We'll see what happens, but you can't excite me for Adam Cole as world champion challenger at this point. And the idea that you might be following up that extremely cold 4 Pillars program with him as the next big program, no, man, I can't get behind that. I am not excited for that at all.
Yeah. And we'll talk about this now, because later on in the show, I believe it was a couple matches after this, you had Saraya and Jericho yelling at the camera, because Saraya came out to help Jericho when Britt Baker came out. And all Saraya got was Kenzo stick shots. So they whine and complain, and they challenge Cole and Britt Baker, which we knew that this tag team was coming eventually, to a mixed tag match, which nobody wants. And then you combine the fact that, hey, you have just Jericho whining and bitching during the middle of a pay-per-view.
Yeah, extremely WWE stuff.
He throws, which, I mean, I understand this because it's kind of his gimmick. He throws the fireball and calls himself a wizard again at an AEW employee. So this was, I can't tell you how much I hated this. It sucked.
Yeah. This was a stinky match. Really bad. Just dreadful. Dreadful for a long time. And initially I was down on the crowd, but then you saw that after this entire show, they got so loud for those last couple matches. I mean, they got super into Jade and Taya. This was a crowd that actually wanted the show to be good. And I retract the part of I was one of the reviewers on the on Voices of Wrestling's written review, I fully retract I said something about the crowd being a disappointment. They were not a disappointment. This was on AEW, and this is on the performers. And they got the fact they were able to get up after 3 hours for those last couple matches as big as that crowd did. Very impressive.
Yeah. Let's move on. I don't want to talk about this bullshit anymore. AEW World Tag Team Championship match. FTR versus Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett with Sanjay Dutt, Satman Singh, and Karen Jarrett with the special guest referee Mark Briscoe. This was good. It could have been a lot better.
Yeah.
And I think the best part of the match was Karen Jarrett.
Yeah.
She was awesome. Not only does she get involved, not only does she come out with that Mark Briscoe incapacitated and Aubrey Edwards comes out, she whacked Aubrey Edwards with a guitar. Good on Aubrey for taking that bump.
Yeah.
And Karen Jarrett has just been the best part of this feud. Complete pro wrestler. She's not a pro wrestler, but she gets pro wrestling.
Oh no, she's a pro. She's natural. And she's fitting in great here. This kind of makes me sad in a way, and I'll explain why. Because I think that Triple J, Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett and Singh and Dutt and Karen, as they slowly expand, they've really worked themselves into a fantastic TV act, and I hope they never get in the tag team picture again. And I hate saying that, the title picture, because they're very entertaining. Maybe they can just shift over to Jay Lethal in singles matches. I don't think Jay Lethal is exactly in AEW. I would not rank him as even a top 20 worker. He's still good. Don't get me wrong, but he's Mr. 3.5 stars at this point, capable of putting on very solid, but not great matches, if that makes any sense whatsoever. I don't know. I think if this was a show which was packed wall to wall with great matches, and then we got this match, it would have been perfectly acceptable. This would have been a nice little breather, a little trip to Memphis, or wherever you'd like to point as a source of inspiration for the style of match. Because I think they're great at it. I think they're great at being goofball heels who constantly cheat. But on this show, it was really unfortunate because, again, they were multiple matches worse than this one by a large margin, and this cannot carry the load as far as entertainment as a match quality thing. Up until once you really got to the circus, this was a really fun show. Once things got really silly, with all the interference and everything, and Jeff Jarrett, eating it up. But before that, this was looking to be another bad match. The actual ring work aspect of stuff was not great. But then you got all the goofy stuff at the end, all the shenanigans, I guess would be the best way to put it, and it got pretty good. But yeah, maybe they can get someone younger and better in the ring affiliated with this act, and kind of shift Jeff to a Billy Gunn style role where he wrestles occasionally. But still, Jeff Jarrett was a delight. His reaction to hitting his move, always great when he hits the stroke and has a big celebration over it. He's such a great heel geek. If this was what Jeff Jarrett's whole career was, again, I know I've made this point before. I'm going to make it again because, I think it's right. If this was what Jeff Jarrett's whole career was, just being the greatest mid-card heel goofball ever, boy, how differently would we think about him as a historical figure in professional wrestling, as compared to late WCW / early TNA, great or constant world champion, when people didn't want him to be. But yeah, this was very fun at its best moments, and it was nice. It was good.
How great is Jeff Jarrett?
He's a pro.
You mentioned it. He celebrates hitting the stroke like he just had sex for the first time and is calling all his buddies to tell him about it. It's just so great.
He's great. I mean, he's such a delight. Sanjay Dutt too. We got to talk about Sanjay Dutt. He's a complete maniac out there, and he's great at it. I love Sanjay Dutt. This company has really good geek managers between Sanjay Dutt and Mark Sterling. Like, they're not threats, but they're perfect for the mid-card role. And
what's hilarious is Sanjay has been an X Division champion. The guy is a wrestler.
Yeah. But like, I don't know that he was ever really thought of as like Mr. Charisma when he was active. But like, as in this managerial role, he is fantastic. Like, just a complete crazed person. Oh, I love him. I love him. I love Jeff Jarrett. Jay Lethal is like a perfect solid guy here. And I like this storyline pretty well. It got a little silly at some points, but still the Mark Briscoe, friendship debate. But yeah, a lot of fun. FTR, I want them in better matches, obviously, because I know what they can do, especially if Bald stays off Twitter and podcasts. But this, I just don't want this to be their reign, That's all.
So I want to point this out, and that this is just a little thing, but it bugged me. Excalibur called the big rig the Shattered Machine.
Yeah, he did.
And come on, Excalibur, you're better than this.
Well, we'll give. I like Excalibur. I think he's a good announcer. I think he's a great announcer. Actually, I know a lot of people are like. So there's a number of people that are not fans of him, and I can't agree with that at all. But yeah, he did screw that up last night, unfortunately.
I think he's great. I just wanted to point that out because I'm like, man, this is very unlike Excalibur, but it is what it is. Look, I think I gave this match 3 1/4. It was just fun. It was very cohesive for the story, but it was absurd. You also had Mark Briscoe kick out Sanjay Dutt and Satnam Singh, and they never left. Part of that.
Well, they never left because Mark Briscoe died, and then yeah.
But it's just like, I don't know. That bugs me a little bit. Maybe it shouldn't. That's just what it is.
Also, speaking of Mark Briscoe, that slap he threw on Jeff Jarrett at the end, that was fantastic. He's perfect too. Mark Briscoe's a great pro wrestler. I do want to. Did you talk about the hamburger thing for this show? By the way,
no.
Are you aware of this? I gotta.
Yes.
Okay, you work it out because I was gone and I'm afraid I'm missing details. But this is bonkers. You drop it.
Okay, so somebody, and I think we won't share the name publicly, but I think it was figured out who did it. Somebody went around to different hamburger joints saying if you buy a hamburger, you got free AEW Double or Nothing tickets. That was a farce. But
fake.
Apparently, they were offering on the day of 4 tickets for $40 to try and get more people in the door.
Yeah.
Just what people will do to make this company look bad is honestly very sad.
A supposed news source, reputable, big air quotes around that reporter, apparently went around and took those pictures as trying to get one over on, I don't even know what. It's just insane behavior. But how good of a hamburger though would you have to get to sit through Jericho and Cole again? Because that would have to be the best burger of my life.
Gordon Ramsay's making it.
I ain't taking no Red Robin for that. I'll say that much.
Look, anybody who does that is basically the TP Beavis is searching for his bunghole. Like it's next level ridiculous. If you're being that guy, don't be that guy.
Just stop.
You're an asshole.
Go get a hobby.
And the hobby for Christian is ladder matches, as he faced off against Wardlow in the ladder match.
Tactical turtleneck. baby.
I have two things to say about this. One, Christian coming out in a cutoff turtleneck.
Yes.
Was phenomenal. It was so great. And it fits this shitbag
he's great.
heel to a T. Oh, he's phenomenal. We love Christian on this show.
We do.
And then 2, Wardlow doing the Jeff Hardy spot.
Oh my God.
He's awesome, but that was the whole match.
I mean, that was the best part of the match, and that did a lot of carrying for the goodwill this match that it does have. Christian did a ladder match while not bumping. Smartest man, like shoot smartest man wrestling. you could easily convince me.
He's living up. Christian might be the best booked thing in the history of All Elite Wrestling because his character arc has been so perfect down to a T. Like his whole thing, it was outwork everyone when he came in, and now I worked everyone.
Yeah,
he didn't have to. He took like one bump.
It's fantastic.
He is AEW's Togi Makabe. Like this is tremendous.
Give him a big chain. Oh man.
Like I will say the spot where Christian it falls off the ladder, Wardlow catches him and then delivers that power bomb. Very good spot.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this had potential, and I talked about Abraham Delgado last week on the preview show, but it didn't live up. It like 2.5. Like it was this show was built around the Wardlow table spot and the Wardlow power bomb, and that was it. I don't think it really accomplished anything.
They tried to do the really cool springboard spot that Wardlow did, but like he broke the ladder. Which was a crazy visual, but I'm just glad he wasn't hurt. I was actually afraid that he had injured his tibia or something like that around the shin area. But looked like that he was okay. Probably just bruised the hell out of it. Arn Anderson, man, like I don't know what the hell was the point of him, because it was obviously a planned spot because he had the blood capsule and everything, but him biting Luchasaurus's thumb and making it bleed, like that was just utterly bizarre. Between that and threatening to sex up RJ City's wife mother on the pre-show, this was frankly a really bizarre night for Arn Anderson, and at least he's interesting, if nothing else. I'll give him that much right now. But I don't know that he should ever really step into a ring in a physical manner ever again.
Let's just enjoy the fact that the Arn Anderson spine buster will forever live and move on, as you said.
Yeah.
Next match, AEW Women's World Championship match. Jamie Hayter defended against Toni Storm, and it was kind of what we opined about on last week's preview show. This was an angle, and it was an injury angle, and they got the belt on Toni Storm, and it feels like this whole thing, whatever, they did the injury angle, okay. Jamie Hayter fought valiantly, she couldn't do it, and she got beat with Storm Zero. That's all fine. Whatever, I'm not rating the match. It was an angle, whatever. But to me, this sets up Toni Storm versus Jamie Hayter at Wembley. And that match could realistically, and this may be a hot take, that could be a main event at All In.
I will say Jamie Hayter with one arm did a better job in ring than either Jericho or Cole. This was extremely short, like 3 minutes. It was really an angle, but I mean, still, what she and Storm were able to do was fantastic. It looked great, and when they do have their proper match, once Jamie's fully healed, it's going to roll. I am very excited for that, and that was what the big takeaway from this. There was a lot of nonsense, but you figured there would be, given what the Outcasts do and everything. That didn't bother me as much as other stuff on the show in terms of extraneous activities, if you will. But it sucks that this is what they had to do, but I am excited for the return match. That'll be a ton of fun, and I cannot wait for that.
Oh, it's going to be tremendous. And I don't think it will end up being the main event, but at least
Maybe it should.
a co-main event. Unless they do Omega Ospreay, there's nothing that in this company.
I mean, that's fair. That's 100% fair. But like, if they don't do that, if they instead do like maybe even would you put Hater Storm over? Let's say they did a no titles or anything, but Young Bucks versus the United Empire 6-man with Omega, the Young Bucks against Ospreay and Aussie Open.
No, I would main event the women's title.
I would too.
We've already gotten a 5-star match out of those guys on Dynamite, but at the end of the day, I think the bigger draw is going to be Hayter in her home country against Toni Storm, who is basically an adopted Brit.
Yeah,
and I think that's something that most people don't realize is she was on NXT UK. She's Australian. But she basically was an adopted Brit as far as the wrestling scene was concerned. And I think that's going to be what sets it apart. I don't know if I'm necessarily saying it's going to, but I would heavily consider it.
Yeah. I think you've definitely got to be considering that. But this got me very excited for that match whenever it happens. Next up, oh boy. Okay, so we had House of Black and their mystery opponents. Who could it possibly be?
Well, it was the Acclaimed. And we knew it was going to be the Acclaimed. Why they didn't announce it, who the hell knows? Like, oh, okay. I want your take, Fred, because they adjusted the lights. Do you like the House Rules lights?
I kind of don't care about them. Like, they don't bother me. They don't really like get me going crazy. The doctor wife mentioned she liked them. She was impressed by them. At least she thought it was a cool visual. And I can't say it's not a cool visual, but like, I don't think it particularly adds anything, but I don't think it takes away either. I think it's perfectly fine. It's not like, Bray Wyatt Fiend lighting or Sin Cara lighting where it's like, what the hell are we doing here? But
yeah, exactly. It doesn't feel bullshitty. It feels legit.
It works enough for them in my mind where it's not a problem at all.
But the one thing is like, it doesn't feel like a gimmick. It just feels like it makes them unique. And that's why I really like it. It's normal. It's just the House of Black doing the House Rules match. And it's only been during House Rules matches. I think that part is important. That if they're doing just a standard match where they're not doing an open challenge, then they've had their normal light, like just normal ring lighting. But I think because of how they've done it, I think it works, and I think it's cool. Like it makes it feel unique and special.
Yeah, and I mean, my bigger concern is that the 3 House Rules matches we've had so far have been really disappointing to me. I thought this was boring. I thought this was atrocious. I actually thought this was nearly as bad as Cole and Jericho. I dropped 1 star on this too. But the match with Air Fox, Grand Metalik, and Blake Christian was a decent enough extended squash, and like the Best Amigos match was fine. It was a decent enough TV match, but it was not what I was hoping or expecting when you told me that the House of Black was going to get a trios run. And this was just the absolute wrong match for this crowd with seemingly never-ending limb work on Anthony Bowens. And like, sure, I get it. That's traditional tag team wrestling. There's nothing wrong with it. But this crowd was dead, and this was not exciting. I don't know if like somebody went into the I don't know what, but like this was all like grab a hold, brother. And like, this is not what I want. This is not great.
I gave this a gentleman's 3. The work was good. And I can't deliver that low of a star rating on a match that had good work, and that's why the Gentleman's 3 kind of exists.
Yeah.
Because it was good. Like, it wasn't entertaining, it wasn't over the top, it wasn't great, but I had zero complaints about the in-ring work. I thought the best part of the match was Max Caster's rap.
That was fantastic.
Making fun of Malachi Black for wearing for blackface because he's got the little bit of paint on his eye.
Yeah.
Calling Brody King a loser on RuPaul's Drag Race, and then Buddy Matthews. I can't remember the line, but he basically called him Dominic Mysterio. And this Max Caster, just next level. And what's funny and also not funny about the blackface line is it ends up coming into play later in the show, which we'll talk about.
Oh boy, yeah.
I did think they did the right thing by pinning Billy Gunn.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the finish you had to do.
I thought it was cool that he got a little bit of a heat segment, and then Malachi Black just caught him because he's old and he can't move. And it just, that part was cohesive. I really liked that portion of the booking. Like, that's why it's so hard for me to go low on this match, because there's aspects I really enjoyed. That's why I think Gentleman 3 is fair.
That's the only part of the actual match that I was into, was the finish, because my God, like, Anthony Bowens needs a knee replacement now in kayfabe, like, after how this match worked. But this was just, I don't know, man. Maybe I was in a crappy mood by this point, but like, it just really disappointed me. I thought this was awful.
Nobody can blame you. You already had to apologize to your wife for the pre-show. You're probably like on your knees begging for her to not hate you for making her watch this card so far.
Yeah.
All right. We got to talk about this next match, because this was very good, and I don't care how much other has hated it. TBS Championship match, Jade Cargill versus Taya Valkyrie.
Oh, the vibes on this, man. This was a party.
We shit on Taya Valkyrie coming into this company because it didn't make sense. Like, why are you bringing her in? She has been good her entire run. The fans are into her.
Yeah.
And this worked really well. Taya Valkyrie is not a smooth mover. She's kind of clumsy a little bit.
She ain't Manami Toyota or whoever you want to put out there, any Yoshi legend. But like, this was a vibes match, man, and they went to war. They just dropped bombs on each other. And if you can't move, and like, look, I know, I listened to the flagship wrap up of it. Rich Crage's big thing was that, Taya works light. Fine. I don't care about that, personally speaking. She can work as light as she wants. I just thought that they went hard. They threw bombs at each other. They hit big moves. The execution looked good enough. I thought I didn't have any real issues outside. Jay did screw up the pump kick at the end, but like, okay, that's the worst that's going to happen. Fine. I know that it kind of played into the finish, but it wasn't the finish. She actually hit Jaded, so like, it bothered me less because of that. But I thought this was a lot of fun. I went 3 3/4 on this. This was, up to this point, easily the best thing on the show, I thought, in terms of match quality. And it was, I mean, I don't know how you can look at this and not declare it a massive success given what we had on paper. This was the one over delivery of the show.
4 stars.
4 stars, baby. Notebook.
I am not a coward. I hope you can live with yourself, Fred.
It's a struggle every day, but that's a different conversation.
Big thing for me with this match, they worked hard, and you can tell they worked hard. And there's a certain, Jade is like Goldberg, and we've talked about it. There's a certain formula that you kind of have to work within the confines of what she currently is. And I think this was maximizing that formula. They had some big spots. They had a control period for Taya. Taya hits the Road to Valkyrie, which is just renamed Jaded. Yeah. And Jade kicks out, and that was a really good kick out. And then she ends up coming back. Like, I just thought this was so well laid out. Yeah. It was
quick. They worked really hard, and like, at that, especially at this point in the show where I'm not sure anyone else really looked like they worked hard up to this point in a match. I'll take that, man. I mean, Wardlow worked hard, but like it was a different kind of working hard. I guess, yeah, other than Wardlow, up to this point, this was the hardest anyone worked, I think, was these two women.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm an effort guy.
Yeah,
I effort.
This was 100% effort, and like you can, there's a lot of criticism you can drop in this match, and I can't really blame anyone for going much lower on it in terms of rating. But like this was perfect effort, I thought.
4 stars. I don't necessarily want to see Ty Valkyrie in this company much longer. Like I'm just not into her.
I'm not huge into her either, but if she keeps doing this effort, if she keeps this up, like this has been a good run for her, and I'm not going to like once she starts being bad. Sure, we'll talk about getting rid of her, but like or reducing her role or whatever. But like right now, I don't think you can say anything like that right now. That's my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we had Smart Mark Sterling come in, and I think we need to preface this. They've been doing open challenges for a while. So Smart Mark Sterling runs his mouth, and it's like, we've beaten everybody. It reminded me of Will Ospreay saying it right before Hiromu Takahashi came back.
Yeah.
Like, he's like, I've beaten everybody in the division. I don't need to beat anybody else. I'm done. And Hiromu comes back, wins the title in a great Wrestle Kingdom match. But this kind of reminded me of that, Fred, because, we've beaten everybody. We have nobody else to beat. And out comes a new Chris Statlander, where she's got new entrance music. She's got new gear. She's got a new, like, attitude. Like, this is not, I'm going to just mess around with Orange Cassidy and the Best Friends and be an alien. This looked like an ass kicker. And they go at it right away. And Jade almost hits Jaded. Statlander kicks out. And then she gets that, it's almost like a combination of a bastard driver and a tombstone. I don't know what you call it.
Yeah, I don't know either.
She hits it, and she wins the TBS title. The reign of Jade is finally over, and this was exactly what needed to happen. But I'll ask you this. Do you think it was a mistake having Statlander get the moment instead of building up a match? Because I think you can make really solid arguments for both sides.
You could.
But considering what Jade matches have been, I think this was perfect.
Yeah. What I liked about this was, frankly, this show needed some energy, and this gave this show a lot of energy. The Chris Statlander return and everything. I am 100% on board with them doing this because of the established history of the open challenges. This wasn't like a Money in the Bank cash in, I think. You could definitely argue that it would have been better for Statlander to do a proper build and eventually get a normal match win. But yeah, I'm fine with this. I thought it worked out well. The crowd laid it up. We'll see how Stat does going forward, because I remember pre-injury she was pretty hit and miss sometimes. But if she can deliver on what I think a lot of people saw as her potential even a couple years ago, I would be on board with it 100%. So,
yeah, I'm excited to see how this women's division will keep evolving now that we have Statlander. And Jade has a gripe because she wrestled the title match right before she lost to Statlander. So the heel is going to have at least something to start a real feud with Statlander on that basis. But let's get to actual consensus good wrestling, Fred. We're finally here.
Yeah.
And that is the 4 Pillars World Championship match. MJF defeats Darby Allin, Jungle Boy Jack Perry, and Sammy Guevara in what I thought was a great match. And I'm sure you had the same thoughts. Nobody really thought that this match was going to be bad. It was the build that stunk. But I will say they took the shitty build and interwove it into the match, and it made it better. A couple spots I want to read off here. You did have multiple throwback or tribute spots.
Yeah.
Darby with the Scorpion Death Drop, Sammy Guevara with the Code Breaker, Jungle Boy Jack Perry with the Kill Switch, and MJF with the Crossroads. And then you had Sammy Guevara with doing the Walls of Jericho, and Darby Allin doing the Scorpion Deathlock. Like that kind of stuff was cool. My favorite part of this match, I had two. MJF just screaming obscenities, like when they're doing the Tower of Doom spot, he's just yelling, "Wait!"
Yeah.
When Darby Allin is hitting that flippy do,
the Stun Dog Millionaire,
I
guess.
He's like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah.
And Sammy goes to the super kick, he catches it. He's like, "You fucking idiot!" And then Jungle Boy just kicks him right in the side of the head, like tremendous stuff. But the best part was. And I know it's very WWE, but I don't care. And here's the thing. AEW is going to do WWE stuff, and I think we need to calm down a little bit because it's about how they do it, where they place it, and how does it make sense with who is doing whatever that action is. MJF grabbing the mic and offering Sammy Guevara the check to lay down because Sammy Guevara announced during his entrance that he and Tony Miller were having a baby was phenomenal. It was great. I don't care how WWE bullshit it is. Sammy's like, okay, sure, I'll lay down. Thinking, oh, okay, dumbass heel. He's going to be a dad. He needs money. He's got a kid on the way. But then he just tries rolling him up anyways. I thought it was very well done, and it was short. It wasn't like
it was short. Yeah,
it wasn't a 5-minute Roman Reigns monologue during the middle of the match. I thought this was awesome. I gave it 4.25 plus. Couldn't quite go 4.5, but this match was tremendous. And I thought the finish here, where Darby's going for the coffin drop on Jungle Boy, but MJF slides the title belt, so it adds just a little extra pain for Darby.
Yeah.
Where he can't get up, and then beats him with the headlock takeover. You couldn't have booked this any better.
Plus, Darby had a chance to win earlier in the match. There was I think it was on MJF. He had hit a coffin drop on him or something, and he purposefully pulled him up to do the headlock takeover for a pin try, and only got 2. And so you could argue that Darby cost himself the match, in kayfabe with that. I thought this was a lot of fun. I went 4.25 on it. I can't complain about this at all. I thought it delivered very well. They managed to avoid all the really silly, like, lazy tropes of a multi-man singles match where, like, two guys got to go to the outside for an extended period so you can just have a singles match for like 3 minutes and then we got to trade off. This was really fast-paced and intense, and I liked it a lot. Darby's entrance video kind of stunk. Like I just wasn't really a big fan of that, but whatever. But yeah, in general, I liked this a lot, and it was a lot of fun. And I can't say that it redeemed the show because the show has had so much bad before, but this was enjoyable.
It was great. Everybody worked hard, and I'll always prefer a one-on-one match, but it, like you said, it never really felt like a standard 4-way. It felt like all these guys were fighting for the one prize, but it felt organic. It felt different because, I mean, they had a few tropey spots. Like, let's just be honest. The 4-way submission, I fucking hated that. To me, that's contrived bullshit, and I don't want to see that. It's fun for some people, but for me, I'm out. I'm completely out. But this was great, and I'm fascinated to see what happens next with MJF. We have Forbidden Door coming up. A lot of people, including myself, thought Adam Cole might be the next challenger, and that's what the Jericho feud was setting up for. I'm fascinated to see where we go from here, Fred.
Yeah, there's some very interesting things that can follow this up. Hopefully it's all better than the build here. But yeah, I thought this was a really good job of delivering here. You have the potential of a Jack Perry heel turn, which I think is coming, which I think is necessary for him. I think he really does need to do something to broaden his character and give himself more of an edge. And you got the tease of that where he did the NXT, I got the title belt, oh no, I can't use it because I'm a good guy. And it pretty immediately led to him not winning. Darby, I think, will just continue on his current path. I think he and like I think Darby will be able to be at whatever level he's slotted at, but he should be slotted as a main eventer, frankly. Sammy's going to be very interesting because, the last few weeks of this build, he has basically been a babyface. And I think it's worked in the short term, but I have rarely seen people in wrestling that are more natural as a heel, I should say, as Sammy Guevara is. And it's just, I don't think it's anything he can change. There have been points in his career where it felt right that he would be a face for a short-term thing, but I can't envision like a multi-year top babyface run for him. Like, it just does not feel right for him, and I don't think it works right for his reactions and everything. So it'll be interesting to see how they handle him as part of the JAS. And I guess we'll see where this goes.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. It's going to be very, very fun to see how things develop. Let's get to the real fun. Anarchy in the Arena. The Elite versus Blackpool Combat Club. This was very good.
Yes.
It was very good, but I will say it could have been great for me, but I thought production early on in the match was so bad that it really kind of prevented it from ever getting to that level. They completely missed the Omega backdrop on the barbed wire. They were cutting between stuff.
Constantly. Yeah, the cuts were very bad.
They figured it out after about 10 minutes, but at that point, the damage for me had already been done.
Yeah. Like, I think they were really trying to do that to sell the chaos of the situation. That's kind of how I interpreted it. That they were like, oh, look at all this stuff happening everywhere. It's insane. This match is absolute chaos. But like they missed so much. Yeah, they missed so many of the big stuff this year.
And because they nailed it last year, like that's where I'm like, okay, I've already seen them do it. And if from a kayfabe perspective, if you've never seen the production nailed on something like this, okay, you can completely understand that. But they had it down. They did a great job last year, and this year they didn't.
I do think AEW's production in terms of camera cuts and stuff is a big weak point of the company at points. It doesn't happen all the time, but when it does happen, it feels like they're constantly missing stuff. And it's like, we really need to do better. Like, you need to figure out the camera situation, because that is a issue that does pop up often enough to be noticeable. It's not like late WCW where like they just didn't care and they were misspelling their own wrestlers' names on chyrons and stuff, but still it's enough where it's like, you need to work on this. We need to talk about the elephant in the room with this match, which is the lead singer of Violent Idols, I think it was. And his not quite blackface, but kind of blackface. So he performs regularly, apparently, in this like 2/3 mask that goes from like basically his eyebrows down to it's below his mouth, right, with a cutout around his mouth. I think is the shape. And it appears like, I haven't done a deep dive on this or anything, but it appears that mask is usually black. On this night, he decided to do black face paint around the lower part of his face along the jawline with a bit of red under, like basically in the goatee spot, if you will. And frankly, it looked like blackface at first glance and several glances afterwards. And that was weird and distracting enough that like it kind of like, it took me a while to be like, is this guy in blackface? What is going on? Before I finally figure out, okay, it's not blackface. But frankly, if it looks like blackface, is it really that different? This was a screw up, a own goal that I don't think anyone. This should have been a pretty easy fix. Somebody should have just looked at it and been like, we need to lose the face paint or something, because this looks close enough to unacceptable that we got to be worried. And this is going to fuel a lot of people bad faith, takes on AEW, going to proclaim it a racist company or something, which I don't think it is, but they really fucked this up. This was a bad, not good. This was really bad. And I think they need to look internally at this and figure out, like, why did we allow this to happen on our big show right before the main event? Like, any time on AEW programming would be not great, but this was a particularly unfortunate time. And then the Young Bucks ended racism by super kicking him to death.
Shocker, the Young Bucks ended racism. Like, we should have seen that coming.
Somebody's got to pick up where Cody Rhodes left off, and it fell on our two Young Bucks.
So I'll say this. To me, like the optics of it were bad.
Mm-hmm.
It did not feel like this was intentional. And let me kind of elaborate on why I kind of see that. Like, it was a 2/3 mask. And you know what the mask kind of reminded me of? V for Vendetta.
Yeah, that's probably intentional. I think his name, his stage name is V, if I recall what I read correctly.
So like, the whole thing did not feel like it was like, hey, I'm trying to be some racist dude.
Yeah.
But this is also the optics that are really, really bad. And some of that cohesiveness that this show has been lacking is why Will Washington was hired.
Mm-hmm.
Like the little things, the things that, hey, Tony Khan is doing so much big picture stuff. I need somebody to help me just keep integrity with some stuff. Yeah. And I think we're not gonna have nearly as many of these types of incidents and types meaning like, what in the world are we doing here? Like, and that's a very broad spectrum, but I think this was just an accident. Here's my opinion. I wonder if they saw this during like rehearsals or whatever, or a walkthrough, and they didn't think it looked bad. And then once it got on camera and how it was shot, it looked really bad. I didn't notice there was red at all.
Yeah.
And you probably should have put a little bit of a red or something on the mask. Because even if you do that, that makes a massive difference as far as optics, because a black mask, that's fine.
Yeah.
Because you have other elements with it.
And when they initially showed the guy, it was from far enough away that you couldn't tell it was a mask. It looked like it could have been face paint.
Oh, see, I thought it was a mask all the way.
Okay. I am also notoriously an idiot. So
as it says on the bottom of your screen here, you are a semi-professional idiot.
Yeah.
I just think that they need to keep. They might need another Will to help them with these things, and
this does like bring in some questions. Like this is why having minority people in positions of power in an organization is important, because they can, they're going to do better than a idiot white guy like myself at pointing out stuff that maybe unconscious bias or something along those lines would not notice. This was a flub. I don't think it's going to really damage AEW in any meaningful sense, but they, at the same time, if you don't watch AEW and then you just see like people being like, why is there blackface on AEW? Then that's not exactly a good recruitment tool for people to watch AEW. And I think the people that it would recruit are definitely people that you do not want associated with your company. Not that I think that's a major concern. But this is something that they need to, I hope internally that they're not just blowing this off, that they're not just like, yeah, this is not a big deal. I mean, this is a big enough of a deal where you need to pay attention to it and make sure it doesn't happen again. And look at what happened to allow this to take place on camera, to appear on camera the way it did, and figure out what you need to do to prevent anything like this ever happening again.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Now let's get to the match.
Yeah.
This was chaos. It was violent. It was brutal. And I want to say the best part of this match was Matt Jackson. Matt Jackson brawls with Claudio Castagnoli in the concourse. Then outside, gets pile driven in the bed of a pickup truck. Comes back in. Super kicks Jon Moxley in the face and blows up his Jordan. And then he takes a
They rip his shoe off.
Like a shoulder breaker kind of deal where his foot gets slammed into thumbtacks. And then right after that, he gets thumbtacks shoved in his mouth and super kicked.
Yeah.
Wow.
Buddy. Yeah. That was all insane. Just positively nuts. I don't even know what to say to all of that. Like, just the idea, like, if I was ever asked, hey, we're giving you X amount of money, but we would like you to be dropped barefoot into a pile of thumbtacks, and you have to actually like land on it so that we get the visual of thumbtacks sticking out of your foot. I would never, not in a zillion years. It could be a gun to my head. I would probably take the bullet. Just have no interest in that happening to my foot. That's just crazy. Yeah, that's an MVP performance right there, to just like take all this. I mean, Rick Knox bladed in the first minute of the match, and it's easy to forget that because there was just so much going on early on in a good way. I thought that once they got back to the ring, that this was actually a really well done match with a bunch of cool high spots. It was very exciting, and I liked it a lot. I did not think it was as good as last year's Anarchy in the Arena. It just, the vibe was a little different. I think the idea of the band playing the song over and over again until they're super kicked by the baby faces was a good one. I liked that. That was fun. But last year's just, I don't know, it was just a different vibe and just felt better, I guess. I don't have a better way to explain it, but
yeah, it was great. And I thought how they kind of did the finish was awesome.
Yes.
And we'll talk about the angle. Kenny Omega hit Bryan Danielson with the One Wing Angel.
Mm-hmm.
Adam Page hit the buckshot lariat. I believe it was on Wheeler Yuta.
I
they
think
both
that's right.
almost got pins. You got
both were broken up, I think.
Yep. You had bonding moments with Page and Omega when they had three. It was a 3 versus 2 in the middle of the ring. Like that bond is back, which is good. But we have to talk about the elephant in the room. That motherfucker, Don Callis, comes in. Yeah. We should have seen it coming if we didn't at the time. That they announced, Don Callis has joined us at ringside, which this in my opinion is why they had the table at ringside.
Probably. Yeah.
That right there. And he comes up when Kenny is about to, I think he's about to hit Wheeler Yuta with One Winged Angel. And Callis comes onto the apron and Kenny drops Yuta and looks at him. And then out from nowhere, we get the second rendition of the bodysuit cameraman stabbing Kenny with the screwdriver, and it's Konosuke Takeshita.
I think he hit a jumping knee to start off with, but yeah.
Oh, is it a jumping? Okay.
And then the screwdriver. But yeah, it was Takeshita. Awesome heel turn. It was inevitable. It felt inevitable after the past couple weeks. Once Callis turned, it felt like that he would definitely be aligned with Takeshita moving forward.
I'll give Tony credit. They pulled it off 18 days later, and they didn't wait. They didn't wait too long. They kept advancing the story, and I thought it was well done. But I thought the most important part of this match, Fred, and something that might get overlooked by people, Wheeler Yuta pinned Kenny Omega with the seatbelt clutch in the middle of the ring. And I think that means something.
Yes. Well, it definitely means that they value Yuta a lot. They would not do that just because, But, they would not just do this randomly. There's a purpose to it. But, yeah, this was, Yuta looked great in this match. He had a fantastic outing. I have something I'm going to ask you about that in a second once we're done talking about the match. But, yeah, I'm super excited for this. And, it's not entirely clear how strongly affiliated Callis and Takeshita are with BCC, I think. Because once BCC did their gather together outside the ring to celebrate right at the end of the show, Callis and Takeshita were not there. They're not part of that. So it could be like a weak affiliation. But I think we're going to get This is my gut feeling that we're going to get Blood and Guts with Takeshita and BCC against the Elite and Kota Ibushi.
That's my take too.
And I think at this point, if they don't get Kota Ibushi, I don't know that it's such a big deal that like the whole crowd is going to be, the whole AEW fan base is going to be disappointed by it. But I think at this point, it's an obvious enough connection where it would be weird if you didn't deliver on that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely agree. I only gave this match 4.5, Fred.
Same.
I
Only
really,
big air quotes around that.
I really enjoyed it, but for me, the production issues just kind of took it down a notch. I'm not going to penalize this match for the lead singer having like unintentional or intentional, we don't know for sure, blackface. That to me is not part of the match. He's part of the match, but I'm not going to penalize the wrestlers for that. It just didn't hit the highs. Like Eddie Kingston coming out bloodied with a can of gasoline.
Yeah.
That was heat. Like that was next level. Like this was very good. I don't think it's a match of the year contender. I guess it'll end up fringe top 20 because it was still very good and a lot of very popular wrestlers in a major show. I think this will still do well, but now I'm 4.5. This wasn't the best match of the weekend. That was Teton versus Master Wato, baby.
I have not got that yet, but I
watched
salivating at it
right before we recorded. Teton's performance in that match is the best singular performance I've seen all year.
Teton is fantastic. It's really unfortunate that like Mexico kind of gets overlooked in terms of the super online, like the people that follow everything. It feels like Mexico is the one place that is definitely forgotten about before any place else.
It's because most of their stuff is relatively inaccessible.
Yeah.
Or if it's accessible, it's 3 weeks later, and then by that point,
a
lot of people just don't care anymore.
Yeah, and CMLL doesn't care, I think, about any kind of international audience, and AAA is just really not competent at that, unfortunately, despite having a very good roster. But they keep doing very dumb stuff constantly, it feels like. And CMLL, this year they've gotten better, but I know that for the last several years that their booking was just atrocious. It was just very much... the best American comparison I can come up with was when, like, after the NWO had kind of run their course, WCW kept pushing all the old guys over top of any attempts to make a new star. That was kind of what CMLL was doing for a while. I think they kind of have corrected course there. It feels like they're pushing much younger guys towards the top. And but Teton's great. He's been great for a while too. And I'm glad that New Japan finally pushed him in a Best of the Super Junior, because it felt like he would come over every year, put on very good performances with the time that was allotted to him, and then finish like 7th out of 8th with 2 wins or something. And and it's great to hear that this year they're like, all right, you're going to the final, baby. And that's awesome. I can't wait to see it. But I am very much behind on New Japan. I'm back in February, I think, is where I left off. Gotta get there. Gotta get caught up.
I will say with Teton, they didn't just elevate him in this Best of the Super Juniors. He's been with LIJ for like 6 months. Yeah,
he once they affiliated him with that, it should have been a little clearer to idiot observer like myself that he was going to be a more featured guy when he did come back. But yeah, that's great, and I'm excited by that. But yeah, he's good. Soberano in CML is very good. And there's just a bunch of talent down there. When Barbaro Cavanario is not trying to destroy his body, he's good. Ultimo Guerrero can still go, but yeah, kind of getting off track here. Atlantis Jr. is very promising. Dolce Gardenia, I think he works very, very light, especially even for a luchador, but I think he's got something too. Anyways, I got way off course there.
You're gonna I want to ask Yuta.
Yeah, watching Yuta and thinking about some of the other young guys in this company, I know that the 4 pillars thing, I still think it's kind of silly to have turned it into a proper storyline and everything, but it's done now. We're done. We're moving on. Who do you think are the actual 4 pillars of AEW right now? Like, as term of the young wrestlers, because I don't think it's the 4 that were featured. I really don't think those are the 4 best young guys in the company right now.
If I had to go with a true 4 pillars, and I'm gonna like the 4 younger guys I would want to build around, it would be MJF, Adam Page, Jay White, and the last one is really tough. It's between Ricky Starks, Wheeler Yuta, and Daniel Garcia.
Yeah.
Like if I had to pick 4 guys to build a company around, that's what I would do.
To me, Adam Page and Jay White are just a little too old to be considered for this very
Jay
silly
White's
discussion.
under 30.
He is 30. I don't have a problem with you classifying him as that. Just to me, like, you have to be in your 20s, I guess. It's a very silly distinction.
Well, and if we're gonna do that, it's Ricky Starks and Daniel Garcia, probably.
Okay. See, I probably would go. Yeah, I would go MJF. I think you still have to have Darby there. Although I think
I don't know what kind of ceiling Darby has.
But like I don't know.
His ceiling's probably winning the world title and then dropping it 2 months later. Like
that's fine. I think he's basically, to me, the comparison is at his prime, Jeff Hardy. To me, that's the comp. And I'm perfectly happy putting someone with that in that space as a 4 pillar. I would drop Sammy. I think Sammy's super talented. I think he's really underrated. I think he's kind of the victim of booking, because the few times he's been pushed on his own, it's been frankly not very good angles in my mind. And he's just seems consistently in this lackey spot. And I would drop Jack Perry. I don't see Jack Perry as like a top star. Maybe if he turns heel and finds that edge and that revitalizes him, that's completely different. But I'd have to put Ricky Starks on there. I think Ricky Starks is such a no-brainer to have a higher ceiling than any guy that is not MJF in this discussion. And like you, I think I would put Daniel Garcia, but I think there's a very good argument that maybe it's Yuta and not Garcia.
That's a tough one, man.
Because I think Garcia's got a little more charisma, but I think Yuta is very effective at what he is.
Yeah. That last spot is really tough. Like, I can't put Darby in there. I love Darby.
That's
Plus,
fair.
I think he's in his early 30s too.
Oh well, so, if he is, then I should probably drop him too. But
yeah, based on kind of
he is 30. Yeah, if I'm dropping Jay White, then I should drop Darby. Then it makes it easier for me. Then I could just put both Yuta and Garcia in there. Checkmate.
Bingo, bango, bongo. Yeah, there is a lot of young talent in this company, and I will shout out Adam Berger, who wrote a really interesting column for Voices of Wrestling.
Oh yes, I gotta glance over that.
Does AEW have a TNA problem and pushing older stars? And you just go read the article, because it's very well researched. It's not narrative driven, it's data driven. And I think when it comes to the conversation like this, that's incredibly important. And he takes all the information that's available. Hey, when did these guys get pushed? Titles won, and how old they were, and trying to kind of look at that aspect and how is AEW kind of doing the same things with TNA. Now, the difference with AEW is they are still pushing young stars, but are they pushing too many older guys? I think is a really interesting debate, and I highly recommend you go check it out. It is a very well done piece.
Yeah, I was not able to read the full thing because of my travels, but what I did get to read was very cool. So upset.
Yeah.
So yeah, downer of a show.
Yeah, but we're gonna have multiple coming up here. We're working on something really cool before Forbidden Door that, as we know more, we will communicate it with you. And I will say this: we do have one question in the Discord, Fred.
Okay.
From Diego Garcia.
I have an email question from a couple weeks ago too that I need to.
Ooh, yeah, we'll have to do that. Diego Garcia asked if Mansouri and Pat Buck are double agents, kind of
God.
referring to all the WWE stuff. I like that. That's funny. I don't think they're double agents. I think we know Pat Buck just likes WWE style. Like he just likes it, and he thinks it's good. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. I think there are elements of WWE style that is very good, but as a conceptual whole, WWE style stinks.
Yeah. It is. They're not double agents. People love that theory, though. Just in general for wrestling, I remember there was a lot of like, is Kevin Nash a WWE double agent? Like all kinds of stuff like that. This is from Matt. Back on May 3rd, because I'm very good at checking my email. Apologies to Matt, but this was relevant when it was sent, so we're going to bring it up. Any thoughts on the XFL? I personally enjoyed the XFL. There's one good game each weekend. I'm wearing out some of the players and hope they make it to the NFL. Thank you for your time. All caps, Matt! Exclamation point.
XFL is good football.
Yeah, I really don't watch much American football at all these days. But Tyler, what was your XFL viewing habits?
I watched it. I was not a hardcore watcher, but Houston Roughnecks fan, baby. I love the run and shoot, and I really enjoyed it. I will say that I like the fact that it's easy for teams to come back if they're good. The 3-point conversion rocks. So it's a 1-point no kickoff, no kicking conversions. So there's no point after. So you get a 1-point conversion from the 2-yard line, a 2-pointer from the 5, or a 3-pointer from the 10. And a lot of teams do go for the 2-pointer because from the 5-yard line, you get a little bit more space. It's somewhat easy to make. They're made around, I think, like 40% of the time. So like it's pretty good odds when you consider. But if you're down 9, you're still in the football game. You only need a touchdown and a 3-point conversion. A 3-point conversion isn't impossible. I think they were hitting them like something like 20% of the time. It's a 10-yard pass.
Yeah.
Like, you can do that. And I like the kickoff rule where the ball it has to be kicked within bounds. Yeah, you have from the 0 to the 20, and you have to get it within that range. And the defenders line up at the 30, and the blockers line up at the 25, and then nobody can move until the ball's caught, and then you block it. They didn't have any injuries on kickoffs this year, no concussions, and I think that element is going to come to the NFL really, really soon. I think the XFL is good football. Is it great football? No. But it's good, and I think that's going to continue to grow and develop and get better.
Yeah, there was I saw an article on ESPN about like a number of players who have gotten NFL deals coming off this past XFL season, and that's awesome for them.
It is awesome, and I like that it's spring football, meaning that like it doesn't interfere. I think what we're going to end up seeing at some point is like an NFL Europe system where teams can send X amount of players to the league and they end up, getting real playing time.
Yeah.
NFL Europe was that way. I think like each team had a bunch of like European players, and then they had like, I don't know, like 20-ish NFL players that would just go, and like Kurt Warner came from NFL Europe and he made the NFL Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Like there were some real success stories from like the Scottish Claymores and the Berlin Thunder, and like there's some good names. Like let's just be real here. And I think you can potentially like do the same thing. More football is better than less football. So even if you don't necessarily watch all of it, it's objectively better to have. It's better for the sport. It's better for the future. It's better for the players because more players have jobs now because of the XFL and the USFL. And coaches too. Like that's all good.
Yep. Yeah, and it's a great opportunity for players who might not otherwise get into the NFL, and I think that's fantastic because it helps It really does help. I think the league, it gives them a better player base, frankly, because scouting is not perfect, and players may not always land initially in the perfect spot for them, and they may need an opportunity outside of the NFL to prove that they deserve to be in the NFL. But yeah.
Yeah, this is, yeah, I love the XFL. But Fred, that's our show.
That's it. We'll be back on Thursday. Probably.
Yep. We will be back on Thursday to talk about Dynamite and resetting before arguably the most important 3-month stretch in the history of All Elite Wrestling.
Yeah.
This is going to be an intriguing, good summer. In the meantime, you can find us on Twitter at GoodBadHungee. You can email the pod at hungeepod@gmail.com. You can follow me on Twitter at TheRealForno. All of my Vikings work at the Vikings Wire and at Vikings First Goal on the Vikings First and Goal YouTube channel, which is marked. They're listed in the description of the show. You can also find Fred on Twitter at Fragrant Wrestling because he likes Ted Turner more than Vince McMahon, as he should. And you can also find a link to Fred's Patreon in the show description as well, where he takes an analytical look at professional wrestling in a different light than most people in the industry.
That is going to be a little quiet for the next month. It has been quiet for a couple weeks too, but I just have a massive thing for work that I have to take care of. So apologies.
Yeah, you apologize. Get on your knees and beg for their forgiveness, Fred.
I'm too fat for that these days.
Hey, trust me, I understand. In the meantime, have a great day. And a happy birthday shout out to my wife, who will never listen to this podcast, who turned 30 yesterday.
Happy birthday. Y'all take it easy. Have a good one. See you Thursday.
Do you love wrestling? Do you love All Elite Wrestling? Make sure you check out The Good, the Bad, and the Hungee here on the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. My name is Tyler Fornes, and my co-host Fred Moreland and I discuss all the happenings of All Elite Wrestling across the universe, including when they make trips overseas. We talk about Dark, we talk about Rampage, we talk about Dynamite, and everything in between, including Tony Khan and his both brilliant and confusing booking. Make sure you check us out. We drop our shows on Thursdays to make sure that we keep up with Dynamite and make sure we give you all the current happenings in All Elite Wrestling.
Hello there, everybody. It's me, Garrett Kidney, the co-host of You've Got to Be Kidding Me on the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network.
And I am Liam Jones, my full name, and I'm also a part of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network as a co-host for You've Got to Be Kidding Me.
We are a TNA history podcast that covers TNA 1 month at a time. We cover all the drama, all the matches, all the Vince Russo nonsense you could ever want in your life.
Have you heard of TNA? I bet you have, but would it be funnier if two people made jokes over it the whole time? Probably.
So if that sounds like fun to you, check it out on this very Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network, and Liam will do bits and whatnot.